a great film, you guys. Let's give them another round of applause.
You guys.
You guys. So why don't you guys just introduce yourselves and say your role on the film?
Yeah, so I'm Shawn Gerrard. I'm the writer-director.
I'm Cameron. I'm the producer of the film.
I'm Risa Stone, and I play Dee Dee.
Shawn, I'll start with you. I couldn't help but notice that you share a name with one of the characters in the film. So it seems like this is kind of a personal story for you. And what kind of was your inspiration to tell this story?
Well, that's a great question. So I do kind of share a name with Shawn Gerrard, but his name's spelled a little differently than me, and there are a lot of differences between us, but I think that some of the things he's struggling with are things that I had struggled with, which is, you know, he presumably went to art school, he's a photographer, and, you know, after film school you kind of wait, and you hope that, you know, people are going to see your short films and you're going to get to make a big movie, and then sometimes the waiting goes on a while and you think, you know, should I even be doing this? What, am I wasting my life? And I think that that's some stuff that Shawn's struggling with. And, you know, shortly before this film was made, I was in a relationship and we had a breakup, and I thought, okay, why don't I take all of the bad stuff I'm feeling and maybe I can make something, you know, okay, at least.
Yeah, it was great. I was surprised how a movie about breaking up was actually pretty funny. So it was great comic elements there as well.
I gotta give a hand to this audience. This audience is amazing. I'm so surprised that, you know, you guys had such a positive reaction to it. Not I'm surprised, but
Thanks, Cameron.
I'm thankful that you guys, you know, that you had such a positive reaction to it. You know, we've, you know, yeah, there's just, you know, there's something about the energy in this room that was, you know, made it that much more enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, it was great. So how did you guys get involved in this production?
I've known Shawn for a while now. We actually had a short film here last year called My Viola, which did very well, and we absolutely love this festival. And he came to me with this idea fairly late into the writing process. Actually, he had a draft that he was, you know, ready to go with, and I read it, and I fell in love with these characters, and obviously I know Shawn from working with him previously, and it was just a fantastic experience working with him the first time around. That had to do it a second time.
And when Cameron says I came to him late, like, I really came to him late. So we had another producer on this film too, and Cameron's really busy. He's a big producer in Toronto. He works on a bunch of TV shows, so we knew this is going to be a tough sell. So me and Jamie got together and we said, we really need Cameron on this movie. And I think we brought you out for lunch. I think it was like 4 weeks before we started shooting. I was like, here's the script, we're ready to go. You read it this weekend, let me know if you're in. Please.
I auditioned for Shawn when I was a teenager, and I didn't end up getting the role, but it's funny how life works out, because a couple years later, I had shot another feature film with Victoria, who played Siobhan, and Shawn had mentioned that he'd wanted to work with me, so we reconnected, and Shawn kind of had me in mind for the role of Dee Dee, so it's really beautiful that he did that and that I got to work with him on this incredible project.
Yeah, you were great. So what kind of changed from script to screen during production?
Well, a lot of things changed. So we, like I said, I knew that we wanted to make a movie, so I wrote this script, and I pulled things in my life that I knew I had some control over, like Steven, who plays Shawn. I've known him for over 20 years, and we're good friends, and Victoria I knew for a while. And Victoria became friends with Risa, and we started to kind of reconnect. I was like, I think she'll be around, and I can ask her to do stuff. But I knew I couldn't make the movie all at once, because I was going to finance it myself. So we would save up a little bit of money, shoot a little bit, save up a little bit of money, shoot a little bit. And so part of what that meant was that the script was always changing, because we'd shoot a couple days and then we'd go back to the script and we'd say, oh, there's all this stuff that could change. Like one thing, for example, the rice cooker. Yeah. It was always in the script at the beginning in the bedroom, which was like, if I got a rice cooker, would you use it? And then that was it. It was just this throwaway thing. And towards the end of our year of shooting, like my credit card gave me some kind of like voucher thing. They're like, spend $50 on our website. And I was like, what can I get for $50? I don't really like what they have here. And I saw a rice cooker on the website. And I was like, you know what? If I get that rice cooker, I could also maybe write it into this ending. And it just kind of came out like a year later that this thing, you know, paid off. And it's a great rice cooker. I use it from time to time. And it's not bad.
2 to 3 times a month?
Yeah.
A little less, like 2 to 3 times a year.
I thought that was a lot.
Yeah, me too.
So it was actually interesting. So you mentioned, like, due to finances, you kind of had a long production, but also it was really interesting in the film because we started out in fall and we saw it through winter and then again eventually in spring. Did you find any challenges for shooting over that whole season?
Yeah, I can speak to a couple, and then I'm sure you guys will have some to add. But one challenge was just kind of like getting everybody motivated to do it again, because we'd shoot and then you finish and you're tired and people want to live their lives, and you're like, hey guys, in 4 weeks we do it all over again. And that part was tough. And then just kind of hoping that things would be okay, that everybody would look the same, nobody would get a radical haircut or a face tattoo or something. So I was worried about that all year. I called Cameron and I go, what if he gets a face tattoo? That Alvin, he's a really adventurous guy, like he might do it.
I wouldn't put it past Andy, who played Alvin, to actually do that.
Yeah, so it was a lot of little things like that, just hoping that things were still going to be there, that I wouldn't get evicted or something, by the time we needed to shoot again.
What about you guys? Any fun stories?
Well, I mean, I think it's a miracle that any film really gets made, and to look at the resources that we were working with, it was very, very difficult, but we had a very strong leader in Shawn. His determination from the very beginning was always what kind of drew me to this project, and obviously the personal relationship he has with these characters, but it was really him spearheading this thing, really taking everything, putting it on his shoulders, making a great environment on set for all the cast and crew. It was just really a real pleasure to come and work with him week after week, and I think that's what everybody was drawn to. So despite scheduling conflicts, our cast is very hardworking. They work in the industry up in Toronto, and they have a very busy schedule, so it was very hard to manage that and hard to manage the crew. But Shawn was kind of the rock that held everything together, and we all wanted to come to work because of him.
That's great.
I wanted to come to work because of you.
Oh. Well, I do give you props. There are some amazing female characters in this story. Risa, you were absolutely fabulous as Dee Dee.
Thank you.
How was it to work with this strong female script, and how much do you relate to your character?
It was fabulous. It was absolutely kind of like the gentleman was saying, we became like a family. So coming to set over the duration of the year, it was like working on a series, and I yearned to go back, and I really looked forward to it. And the role of Dee Dee, I loved playing her. I've never had more fun in a character because she's such a strong female role, and she's empowered, and she's comfortable with who she is, and she's unapologetic. And I think that will hopefully empower other women in what they want to believe in and follow through on.
Great. Well, I'll go ahead and open it up. Does anybody in the audience have questions? Yeah, right there.
So I'm definitely interested in the spiritual aspect that you threw into the story. More specifically, I like that you said something with the Saturn return and how it came up. I'm curious what your influences is bringing that into the script here, if it was something significant for you, or if you had just heard about it somewhere.
I like that question. So I had heard about it, and I think, like Shawn in the movie, I'm usually pretty skeptical with spiritual stuff, but every now and then there's something that can kind of pull me in a little bit, and I go, oh, I like the idea of that. And somebody had told me, I think I was 28 at the time, and I was feeling kind of like Shawn, and they were like, oh, you're going through your first Saturn return, and I was like, what is that? And then I liked the application of it to my life at the time. I don't know if I fully bought in, just like I don't know that he fully buys in, but I liked that, and I thought that, you know, Siobhan brings it up at the beginning of the movie as well, but in like a scientific way, that there's Saturn, and it's just very matter of fact. So I wanted to have that in there to kind of balance out that you can have this experience, you know, it doesn't need to be, for a spiritual thing like that, it doesn't need to be that you fully believe it. You can still have some kind of relationship with it, whether you're Team Siobhan or Team Acula.
How much research did you actually have to do for the science stuff?
We did a little bit. So the actress who played Siobhan was in a like a sketch comedy class with this guy who had done his PhD in like astrophysics or something, and he teaches now in Buffalo, New York. And Buffalo's like an hour drive from Toronto. So he would come in every week for this sketch comedy class in Toronto. So we took him out for sushi. And I mean, there's not a ton of science in the movie, but there was stuff that we needed to get, like what would her thesis be, and what could her research be, and you know, would people like going to CERN, and you know, like Hannah, I watched a lot of TED Talks too, but yeah, so he sat us down and he gave us some ideas, and I was like, what kind of thing would she maybe do for her thesis? And he gave me a bunch of them, and I think the one that's in the movie is quantum deformation of space-time supersymmetry, and I was like, that one.
Did anyone else have any questions? Yeah, right here.
I was expecting a happy ending, you know, the characters to get back together. And I guess in reality, that's the way it is in real life. But I want to see a good ending. You know?
Well, I think there's a happy ending. I mean, I think that, you know, they get on the same plane, and they feel good about where they are in their lives at the end. They kind of look at each other, they smile, they're not hurt anymore. So I think, you know, maybe later they can add each other on Facebook again, and, you know, like each other's posts and that kind of thing.
Right.
What is your advice for kids or college students who want to be in your place and make something on a low budget, but yet have the success that you're currently having with the film festival and obviously us watching it?
Well, I would say that people should just keep making stuff and make it for you and tell the stories that you want to tell. Anytime I've tried to make something for other people, or that I think, you know, that I don't love, it's not good. I don't know that now that I make things that I love that they are good, but I like them at least. So I think that would be my advice: is to make things you love and put yourself out there. And if you do that, you know, you'll be happy, whether you screen it for yourself and your mom, or, you know, for a bunch of people.
I really like the movie. As someone that's applying to master's programs, it's also terrifying. But I wondered if you could speak on whether or not you feel like each of you have chosen to be filmmakers, or if it's something that you feel like is like has to be a part of you, or is it like a choice that you make?
Sure. That's a really good question. I really appreciate that. Somebody asked me once why I chose to be an actress, and, you know, specifically around the time of this film, I've been interviewed a bit, and it was something that I knew I couldn't not do. I tried to pursue other jobs, I really did, because it would be a lot less heartbreaking and a lot less work, but for me, there was no other choice.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that. I mean, there was never a choice for me. It was always film industry, television industry, that was it. And I'm very, very thankful that I'm, you know, actually working in it now, so.
Yeah, for me, kind of the same thing. There was a couple quotes that I liked that kind of stayed with me, and there was this actor, I don't remember his name, he received one of those Lifetime Achievement Academy Awards that they don't show you on the broadcast, but they show you like when they come back from the commercial really quickly. And they just showed his little soundbite, and he said, I don't act to live, I live to act. And that always stayed with me, because, you know, I like making things. And there was this other quote that I heard kind of recently, it's like a Steve Jobs quote. I tell these guys Steve Jobs quotes all the time. But he said something about like one way that people sometimes decide to show their appreciation for the world is to like make something and put it out there. And yeah, I don't know that it's been a choice. I think that I've chosen to keep doing it. But yeah, it's just something I got to do.
And can I do a quick follow-up on your protagonist? And do you think that he felt that way also?
That's a great question. I think he does in the end, because he says, when she asks him about the prince, he says, I needed to start over, creatively or otherwise. So I think he gets to a point where he can clear off the viewpoints that he's kind of been polluted by, and he can kind of get back to what he feels is honest about his work.
Do you have a question?
Hi, my name is Danny, and I wanted to know what was your motivation for keeping things balanced after the breakup? I noticed that Shawn had somebody on retainer, and Siobhan had another guy who was like, like another suitor. So I'm like, was that, I guess, real life? And I guess, why did you keep things so balanced? Because, personal experience, it's not always balanced like that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, in the script, early on, Siobhan ended up seeing a couple people. So it wasn't super balanced, but then we were kind of like, we're covering the same ground with that other person that we were doing with the Alvin character. But I think that one thing we kind of wanted to do was there's a balance that they're going through an experience together, even if they're not going through it together. And that's something we tried to say too with that little scene where he's like riding his bike and she's out for the jog. We're kind of going between it. That they're both feeling things at the same time. They're in sync, but they don't know it.
I think we have time for one more question if anybody has a question. Yes.
When they got on the flight together to go to Europe, because I know she was going to go to Switzerland, right? And he was going to go to Paris. So they actually ended up to Paris, where he get off, and then she go on to Switzerland, but had the plan.
That's right.
But
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of nice that they met up there, and at least they could be friends, even though they didn't get back together, at least they could be friends. So to me, it's kind of a happy.
Was that a fantasy? I thought it was a fantasy.
It's a great question. I won't answer it, but one thing I will say is that in the script, you might remember this, in the script, we wrote in like, oh, you see the alternate universes, blah, 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 and then I wrote, back in our universe, maybe.
I do remember that, actually.
So I put it in there.
All right, well,